Welcome, friends and fans, to GalaxyCon Talks Comics. I am Patty Hawkins. Usually I'm second banana, but host Mike Broder is a little busy right now, so I am going to step into the captain's chair and welcome you to part of the ongoing GalaxyCon live series. On weekends and during weeknights, we have meet and greets, virtual greetings, autograph sales, and of course, live Q&As with various talent in the geek universe. And tonight is our special show where we talk comics, and tonight our guest is a wonderful talent. He's a comic book sort of a convention buddy of mine. I met him several because I was a big fan of him, and then when I hosted him at a sketch duel several years ago, we became con buddies. And I might add, he is the one person that I run all my British accent voices through as a professional voice actor, and he says after all these years I still haven't got it right. So we must applaud him for not only for his honesty but for his friendship. Please welcome the incredible talent, Mike Perkins.
Hello. It's close. It's close.
There.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I ball trying to about that. I will have a pint.
That was Norwegian, right?
Yeah, probably some of this way. So, how you doing, man?
Good. Keeping my head down, keeping healthy. That's all you can wish for, right?
Oh yeah, nowadays. And again, anybody doing okay? Okay is the new awesome. That's the way it really is. And you know, and like I've said before, I believe we are going to get through this. It's not going to happen as fast as we want it to, but I think we are going to get there in the end. But in the meantime, we've had these opportunities right here presenting itself here at the GalaxyCon virtual stage, is what I like to call it, and we're actually able to get these one-on-one interactions with you, which is really great because sometimes at the convention shows, we're not really able to take deep dives like this. So,
right. We just, glance off each other and, you're running somewhere, I'm running somewhere.
Absolutely. And like I said, I've been curious that you and I were kind of at the closure of live physical conventions. You and I were in Chicago, and GalaxyCon that same weekend was doing its show in Richmond. And then immediately after that in the spring, we
Chicago seems like it was 3 years ago now.
I know, and it was only maybe 4 or 5 months. Your hair was browner.
Yeah, it was. It's definitely going Magneto.
Good. That's not so bad. That's so bad. So, so for the sake of our audience, you are an illustrator. Is that the correct term?
A sequential illustrator.
But you've done penciling and inking layouts, and you've also done some draftsman work in I believe computer gaming industry.
Design. When you're starting off, especially within Europe and within England, it's very much you do everything. You do your penciling, your inking, your coloring, your lettering. You're pretty much a jack of all trades, and so the separation of work over here has always been kind of strange a little bit. I can see why traditionally it was done, but you see it more nowadays that people are preferring to pencil and ink their own work, really.
Yeah. Now, everybody's methodology is their own, but obviously inking has advanced to the point now where people are able to scan it. People are using technology to virtually ink it. There's a lot of more options than they were, as opposed to dip.
Oh, that's how I work, though. That's that's straight on the page. There's a difference there. I think we've discussed it before, where it's very difficult to have a physical connection to the page if I'm working digitally, which I've done, but I find that physicality is missing. Like the actual touch of the brush to the page, the actual the brush stroke that goes on there. It's and plus the fact you get the secondary market of the original artwork as well. But I just still prefer the pencil and ink page in front of me, I've tried to do it, but it's not for me. It's that physical. I think Frank quietly described it the best when he said it's kind of like when you have a mirror in front of you, and and you touch the mirror, and it looks like your fingers are touching, but there's not. There's a barrier in between them.
Yeah.
And that's it's not for every artist, of course, but that's how I feel, and that's why I approach it in the physical style. Pencils, brushes, inks,
I think it's absolutely like served you well. You certainly have the portfolio to prove it. Right. But I do enjoy the fact that it has opened it up, because I know some people criticize that as like shortcuts, but I'm like, no, you gotta have talent to still make it look good. We're not at the age yet where someone like me that can't draw can't just I'll outline some stick figures and I'll scan it and then wham. Right. I'll push. I downloaded the John Byrne skin for myself. Ka-ching! Hey, we're not there yet. I don't think we'll ever be there yet. And even then, again,
you have to have your storytelling chops as well. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's my job more than being an illustrator. It's my job to tell a story. Yes. So you really have to have those kind of directorial chops, I guess. And so that's a totally different thing to just drawing.
Absolutely, and that's always been whenever I go through the alley or somebody who's hey, my kid wants to draw comics and he's drawn some outline some stuff too. I'm like, yeah, like physical forms and the action figure posing, video game posing, it's there. But I'm always just like, I said, draw some people over 2 pages having breakfast and talking.
Right.
And make it interesting, not bombastic, just make it interesting and engaging.
And try to do that for 31 issues on the stand.
Yeah, and the kids look at me like wait, and I just say like that's. It's like you got to walk before you can fly, and to get in this, you really got to walk. So, and speaking of walking, where do you consider yourself artistically when you learned how to walk?
In what way do you mean?
Like going back to the beginning. Well, first of all, going back to the beginning. Obviously, for your accent and my jokes, you came out of the UK. What part of the UK, first of all?
Right in the centre. A place called Wolverhampton, which is. Just that's great. Fantastic. Yeah, look at that. Collingwood Junior School, infant school stuff there with a hand knitted top from my mom. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow. Right.
Yeah, everything was hand knitted. The socks. I had 2 older brothers, so everything was hand me down as well. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that was I lived in a place called Bushbury, which is part of Wolverhampton. Well, we had a good life. It wasn't anything, it was very working class, I would say. Mm-hmm. But we were very happy. We never went without. So it's good. It was one of those things that it was good. It was good. After I lived here for 3 years over in Florida, I went back to my parents' house, and I was just like, wow, how did they raise three kids in this tiny place, You just get so used to the space here.
Yeah, definitely. And we're both in Florida, so looks like the twin hurricane menace isn't quite as bad as well, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Especially you, because I think you're on that side of the coast.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I saw that coming up, and I was like, "Oh man, something else."
This freaking year. God. So, what were some of your early art? Did you always have an inclination to just draw?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was always drawing comics. Always drawing anything, like on anything. My mom would buy cut-offs of wallpaper. Would just be drawing on the back of the wallpaper, and just making my own comics from a very early age. Like maybe 2, 3, 4. I was that focused. And so I mean the first stuff was probably the Marvel reprints. The black and white Marvel reprints.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic. But I guess the first one that really struck me was Captain Britain when that first came out, and because for me at that point it was like, oh, okay, so even though there were, oh, there you go, yeah. Even though there were other comics around, British comics around, it was Captain Britain that really made me think, okay, you can actually do this thing while you're actually living in Britain. Yeah. I mean, I know that Herb Trimpe and Chris Claremont have links to Britain. They weren't actually living here. Maybe Herb Trimpe was living here at the time. But
I didn't know.
Yeah, he was. I think that's one of the reasons he got the job, because he was living over here for a short while.
Oh wow.
Chris Claremont himself originates from England.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it was very much a pointer in the right direction. It was like, okay, so maybe this is something I can do here.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really kind of the,
and
that was 6-year-old me with my Captain Britain mask running down the road.
And
my mighty staff around.
And for historical context for our viewers, not like today, but yeah, back then, Marvel Comics had a curious, almost like anime to the United States used to be.
Right.
The American comics were kind of without rhyme or reason. They were reprinted, and I believe they were reprinted in thicker volumes.
Yeah, well, I thought I had some down here, but I must have put them away. They were the stuff that I was picking up. They were reprinted in black and white.
Yeah,
it was pretty much half an issue. That's reprint. Right. So they were kind of anthologies. So you would have 4 or 5 stories in that one comic.
Yeah.
But my first exposure to that was a book called The Titans, which was Marvel reprints.
Yeah.
They were all landscape, like all the pages were landscape. So you had 2 pages on one page,
Yeah.
So that was just an information overload.
Yeah.
And I love that. That was, I look back at that stuff now, and I'm like, I was reading that when I was 4 years old.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the logo for the UK Titans was suspiciously similar to the DC's Teen Titans logo, correct?
I guess, but that came out, 73, 74? So it was before the Teen Titans. Well, before the Perez Wolfman stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stuff was fantastic. But then it was when 2000 AD came along, and that was when it was like, whoa, and it was a lot of Spanish creators, but it was a lot of British creators there as well.
It was, it was definitely the impact of British talent, British fans, doing it for British readers. Right.
And so for me, 2000 AD was the real changing point, and that's where a lot of my influences come from.
Yeah.
With Brian Bolland and Dave Gibbons and early Steve Dillon and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Amazing work.
And again, if anybody are viewing it is unaware of the contributions 2000 AD made, it's right up there with the totality of comic book history. It's just as important as Will Eisner, just as important as like Stan Lee and Kirby and everything else. It was just a major node and stepping stone of evolution in the form and creation of the talent.
Yeah, and especially in England, where before that point, and I think we have Pat Mills to thank for this. Before that point, there were no credits. It was just like, the art suddenly appeared and it was published.
Yeah.
And so I think Pat Mills and Kevin O'Neill were actually the ones who started to put the credit boxes on there, so you knew who was doing it. And that was against a managerial position, because the management basically didn't want other publishers coming in and cribbing the talent.
Yeah.
Which is what happened. A lot of
That's
a lot of people went to DC in the 80s. So.
Kind of the nature of the beast. But,
right.
But the nice thing is that there was always some upcoming talent, I think, to fill the vacuum.
Totally.
Was it the same style? Well, was there another? Was there? And this is one thing that I always respected about that era in the 2000 AD was it. Unless I didn't see it myself, but I never saw, okay, Brian Boland made it big hairstyle, but I don't recall ever seeing too many people trying to copy Boland. It seemed like a lot of guys were really trying to working on their own style and their own artistic voice.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think I think the British comics were more open to that, in the sense of you have your artistic style, why don't you develop it?
Yeah.
There have been some guys who work very much in the Boland style. Cliff Robinson comes to mind. There's a whole bunch of people, but they have evolved from that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's become their style that they're using now. And I think with any influence, you know, you can say, oh yeah, my influences are Boland and, you know, Perez and Leonardi and, you know, all these kind of people, and it doesn't necessarily show in your work.
Yeah.
You know, so
no, you can have an influence, but it's not like, say, in the 90s when there was a whole generation of guys who were really just trying to copy the Image guys.
But I think that might have been more of a managerial thing.
That's possible.
It was like this stuff sells, you have to draw in this style. I know that I've spoken to some artists when I was working at CrossGen, and they were saying that was the thing. It was like, you have to draw like this.
Yeah.
If you want work from us, you have to draw like this.
Yeah. And again, and everybody, if they work long enough, they do evolve out of it. A lot of people forget Bill Sienkiewicz started out as a Neil Adams clone.
Right. And plus the fact, you know, you want to work, you know. You know, I mean, when I was starting out at Marvel UK, I was drawing, you know, Biker Mice from Mars and Wind in the Willows and stuff like that. You know, you know, you don't have to be constrained to that one style.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to develop your voice so that people recognize your style individually, but also, you know, it's important to be diverse enough that you can do that cartoony stuff as well if it's required.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of that time, what's the work on that side of the world you're most proud of?
It's difficult. Probably Carver Hale, which was a 2000 AD story.
Mm-hmm.
That I did with Mike Carey, and it was kind of The Long Good Friday meets Nightbreed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so because that was my own creation for 2000 AD.
Yeah.
You know, so that was very much one of those things where it was like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. You know? I mean, I was always like that. Whenever the first time I picked up the 2000 AD work, I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm working for 2000 AD. And that was really my first professional work for 2000 AD. And the second professional work for 2000 AD was a Judge Dredd thing. And I was kind of like, I'm supposed to build up to this, you know.
I'm about to say that's like jumping immediately into Batman nowadays.
Right. And I totally screwed it up, of course. You know. I mean, they kept giving me work, thank you.
You can't screw up Judge Dredd. I mean,
well, you can.
Well, okay, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's possible. I don't see you doing it. It may, Mike's way to it. Oh, and incidentally, just going back to it, I still love Captain Britain's original costume.
Oh, totally.
I can understand changing it up, but I will always have a soft spot for that. The minute I saw it in the Marvel Handbook, and I was just like, "That's cool." Hey, you know,
it was different. It's a pen in the backside to draw with that big lion on the front.
Yeah, and
I guess that's why they changed it. Yeah. I think that was one of the things when Alan Davis came on. He was like, "I've got to change the costume."
Yeah. Wouldn't blame for that. What? So what was you're knocking away at 2000 AD. At what point did people from our side of the world reach out to you and say, "Hey"?
It was mostly I'd done a terror tale for 2000 AD, which is like a short horror thing, and then that was the third piece of work I did for 2000 AD, and that was kind of when I found my voice. I realized that I wanted to pursue the kind of shadow side of it, and using shadow on figures, and so that script really worked for me, and that was written by Martin Conahan. Mm-hmm. And Martin, he works for the BBC now, but Martin was saying, I've got some ideas for Negative Burn for Caliber, and do you want to submit some stuff with me, and we'll see how we get on. And Martin got in touch with Joe Pruitt, and that started snowballing in that direction.
Yeah.
So it was really the Caliber stuff that came up first, and actually through Caliber, that's when I first met Mike Carey as well, because we did a Dr. Faustus adaptation.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we always enjoy working with each other. It's one of those things where whenever we get the chance, we're going to do it.
Yeah. And again, another history lesson for those of you out there. Caliber was independent company, started in the mid-late 80s, as I recall. They kind of came in on the tail end of what was now referred to as the Black and White explosion, which was a spinoff of the popularity of the Ninja Turtles. And then at that point, there was just tons of black and white independent presses. And the curious thing is that there was a lot of crap, but there was some legitimate copper, gold, and occasionally, some platinum, right. And a lot of talent still working today cut their teeth in those opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, especially at Caliber. There was Bendis, Mac, John Cassidy, me, Mike Carey, Lawrence Campbell. There was a whole bunch of us who started there.
Vincent Locke, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of
yeah,
absolutely a lot of good stuff out there. And the nice thing is, it was like the nun town. There was other independent stuff going on, but that was something that established guys would bounce over to, like First Comics and Eclipse and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, this was again, another opportunity, another way to level up. And again, and to this day, there's a lot of stuff Caliber put out which holds up.
Right. Totally. Every now and again, I'll get the Dr. Faustus stuff out, and I'll be like, maybe I should reprint this, and get it out there for another market. But it's still strong. I mean, there's pages I look at, and I'm just like, oh God, maybe I should redraw it first.
Who knows? So you're not around then. So from Caliber, was that some Marvel work? Or was that cross-gen?
That was concurrently. The Marvel work was primarily Marvel UK.
Right.
And I mean, I broke into 2000 AD through an agent in England. But we always had this agreement that if I picked up my own work, then he'd be like, okay, you go and do that, and it's fine. And so the Marvel UK work came about because a colleague of mine, Paul Birch, he sent a lot of ideas off to Marvel UK, and he was always recycling paper. So whenever you got something, it would have something on the back. We're like, what the hell's this? And so he sent a lot of ideas off to Marvel UK, and I think Alan Cowsell, who was editor there at the time, got in touch with him and said, we don't really have anything at the moment, but who did the stuff that was on the back, and it was some of my stuff that Paul had just done his synopses on the back of that.
Wow.
And so that's how I picked up the Marvel UK work.
Okay.
And then so that was concurrently going on, and at that point as well, when I was working on the Caliber stuff, I was living in Poland at that time, because I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife, in England, and she was there for an exchange course, and she went back to Poland, and I went over there because I was like, I could work anywhere, you know.
True.
And so I was living in Poland, and so that enabled me to do more caliber stuff, because it was not well paid at all. It was it was the glorious exposure, you know. It was
exposure bucks.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it worked. I mean, it worked for all those guys who are the big professionals now.
Yeah, and any artistic pursuits. I mean, you know, I buddies of mine that started my stand-up comedy days. You know, we had to knock out open mics for a couple of years and work our way up. And now I got some guys that are just to the point now where they were before things shut down. But the point is, this is what it is. It's not paying your dues. It's learning the skills.
Yeah, totally. And so being in Poland, because it wasn't that expensive to live there, it enabled me to work on the caliber stuff and hone those skills.
It's giving you an imperpetur of intrigue, though. It's like Mike Perkins, an amazing artist in Poland.
Yes. Yeah, like everything, all the scripts came through on those faxes. You know.
Yeah.
But
you ring as soon as I fax it. I hate that. Oh God.
So what was it? I was working on the caliber stuff, and then I started to pick up Games Workshop work as well, because they were doing a monthly comic, a Warhammer monthly. So I was picking up work for them as well. And then that was when the DC stuff started, and it was mostly, you know, those single page things on the DC big books, you know, the big book of Scandal and the big book of Grimm and all this kind of stuff.
Which I always thought was their backdoor vetting experiment. I had some friends that did they would do a couple page, did a page and that and a page of this. Same thing.
It was a good idea to do that. I mean, because it showed editorial if you could tell a story or not, for one thing.
Especially at one page.
Right. And especially if you worked on a few of them, like I did, maybe 3 or 4, it showed you could utilize different aspects of storytelling. You know, going from fairy tales in the Big Book of Grimm to jiggle shows in the Big Book of the 70s, you know. So it was that was good. That was leading somewhere. And then as you know, as with most things in comics, I was in the pub, and I was talking to Phil Winslade, and Phil was working on a bunch of DC. Yeah, I think he just wrapped up Nevada at DC, and he wanted somebody to ink his work, and he couldn't find anybody to ink it. And I was like, well, I'll give it a go. And he liked what I did, and so we worked together, and I started to pick up more inking stuff, which at the time I was like, I'll just do it for a while, you know, because it's nice to be working on these different things, and you learn so much when you're working on other pencilers. And so I started picking up inking stuff, which led to the Green Lantern Aliens stuff with Rick Leonardi. And I was thrilled with that, because I was and I still am such a huge Leonardi fan. And then because Ron Mars was working, he was writing that. And this is just when CrossGen was starting up.
Right.
And Ron saw it and he loved it, and he got me some work inking Perez, who was another hero of mine. And
should be a hero of everybody's, in my opinion. But that's just me, you know.
And then the boss at CrossGen saw it, and he was just like, "Let's get him over here," you know. So originally it was like, okay, we'll do it for, you know, 3 years and make some contacts and then come back. And that was in 2001, and we're still here.
So. Yeah. So Just real quick, going back just a little bit to the Games Workshop stuff.
Yeah.
What do you remember anything in particular on it? Was it on the fantasy end or was it on the 40K end?
It was bits of both. It was bits of both.
I just say this because I honestly didn't know you did that stuff, so now I want to look for it because
right.
I'm kind of a 40K nut. So
okay. Well, they did. The first things I picked up for them, they did this like square bound thing called Inferno, and it was a lot of just a lot of stories, basically, a lot of text, and accompanying one-page illustration. So
all right.
So that's how I broke into that kind of.
Okay, world. I have seen those.
Yeah, and then they came up with the Warhammer Monthly book, and that was, I was picking up a fair amount of work there.
Yeah.
Mostly fantasy-based stuff, but I also did a couple of Space Marine stuff with Dan Abnett and who I'd worked with on Biker Meister Mars before.
Yeah, that's true. And, well, he's certainly gone on to no offense to any Biker Meister Mars fans out there, but I think you guys have both gone on and had some more advanced work. We'll just leave.
Yeah, but I mean, it just shows the versatility. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, the same time he was writing Biker Meister Mars, he was doing Knights of Pendragon. So it's it's just versatility that he's got.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as far as I'm concerned, he could be the only guy that writes 40K, but no offense to all the other 40K writers out there.
Well, they're doing a new one at Marvel, right?
They got a license, and the 40K fan community immediately kind of got really scared and really, oh no, they're gonna soften it, they're gonna move it too. But it looks like it's on deck to be pretty solid. Of course, they're doing the Ultramarine chapter, which I'm like, but all right. They're gonna Games Workshop. I've noticed in the past about 2 years, they've made a really strong push to kind of level up out of their niche fan base and really trying to go multimedia. Okay, we're still gonna do the tabletop gaming, but we're really gonna push this out, and they do. They have a very untapped potential.
Totally.
Totally. I am kind of that sense too of I do kind of hope they don't defang it too much, because I also think that's very much the appeal.
Right. I remember going around to their building in Nottingham and just looking at all the stuff they were working on, and each one, I was like, oh, can I do something with that? Can I do something with that character? So I mean that play. Have you been there? It's fantastic.
I wouldn't mind taking a look at that. And then just
go there, and there's a big Space Marine statue right outside the building in Nottingham. Just outside Sherwood Forest.
I've actually cosplayed as an Imperial Commissar. That's one of my.
There you go. But
I can't grow a beard, otherwise I'd be a squat.
Even the actual setting, like there's within the environs of the office building, there's a pub where the employees can go after they finish their work.
Oh wow!
And it's like an orcs bar. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's brilliant. So it's good to know. Good to know. So, all right. So then cross-gen, which I know you and somebody Bedrad, some of the other guys did talked about this a week or two ago.
Right.
But cross-gen. This somebody needs to make the cross-gen documentary.
We like we said on the show the other week, we should have just done it as a reality show while we were there, and we'd all be living in palaces now.
Probably. And again, another history lesson for our audience. CrossGen was an independent company, had a lot of money behind it, and they came out full color, an absolutely gargantuan promotion and marketing budget, and a very, very curious in-house way of developing it, in the sense that It was, I use this term not admonishingly, a factory, in the sense of it had a bullpen. If you worked for like you want to come work for us, fine. You have to come over here. You have to live here in Tampa, and you have to work out of the office. But the upshot was that writers and artists and the inkers and everybody was all in the same building. So if you had a question, you could just say, "Hey, Barbara, is she using the axe or the sword?" Like, the axe. Okay, thanks.
Right. Then that's what it was like, you know. Mm-hmm. You would have some of the writers come around going, what are we going to do in this issue, you know? And then you'd go for a lunch and you'd hammer the issue together over lunch and go back and draw it.
Now, did they have a bar internally?
They had a kitchen area which was fully stocked with, you know, beers and various other things, you know. All right. So I mean, they didn't have an orc bar.
Yeah, it's funny is that, and to their credit too, it wasn't superhero stuff. No. They were really trying to push. It was a loosely combined universe, but it wasn't immediately jump into, okay, after 4 months, all the characters are going to cross over in a big story against the big bad. It was little tethers and little tendrils of these are connected and we'll get there, but they never did.
Yeah, we tended to ignore it on Ruse. We were kind of like,
well, that was the other thing too, was you and Mark Waid were kind of in an appendix.
Yeah,
to the cross universe.
Yeah, it was. Well, Ruse. Not a lot of people know it. That Ruse, the book itself, it was basically a spin-off of Sigil, which was a science fiction book. Because there's one panel in Sigil where I can't even remember the people's names now, but they one of the girls is saying to one of the Sigil people, you know, I need to learn more about this, and is there a way I can learn more about this? And he says, yes, there's a perfect way we can learn about this. And so that panel basically is the beginning of Ruse, because he creates this virtual reality for this woman in this book, where he is Simon Archard and she is Emma Bishop. And so it was all a virtual reality thing, which we totally ignored after the first issue. It was just like, no, we just want to do a Victorian detective thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
we all know Mark Waid has never broken the rules. And I say this because we're on very good terms.
He's broken a few walls as well.
Yeah, well, we've heard those stories, and a phone, but you know.
But that was the first time I teamed up with Butch Geist, and it was fantastic. We got on so well together.
I was a fan of his going back to his Micronauts days.
Yeah, totally.
And that was way past. That was weird too, because I was like, everybody just thinks Micronauts. And they think, oh yeah, Mike Golden, and it's like, oh no, Pat Broderick, and and Butch Geist, and that series went on for another 6 years. And it was held up pretty well. Yeah.
And Butch is he's fantastic. Any chance I get to work with Butch, you know, I grab at it. You know, I love inking his stuff. I mean, it's always kind of hypocritical of me because I've been inked by other people, and you know, it doesn't matter how great the inker is. It's just not my artwork at the end of the day. Yeah. So I always prefer to ink myself. But the hypocritical side of me is I love inking other people's work. And so it's usually the people who like to ink themselves, you know, like Butch, or you know, there's other people I would love to have a crack at, but you know, I know that's not going to be because they like to either do things in pencil on their own, like Dougie Braithwaite, or you know, they're tied up with other. They're tied up with other things. With like say with Garcia Lopez or people like this, who I love to have a crack at inking. So it's a little hypocritical of me, but it scratches those itches that I sometimes get. Like, oh, I really want to work on a different artist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, we had a question from the chat room. Bruban, the collector. Mike, do you still own any of your original pages from your first Judge Dredd story?
Well, Ruben is actually my art dealer.
Okay.
So, I don't think he's actually like hoping for a link to his site, which is comicbookartgallery.com. But
I have visited several times. Not bought anything, but not that I don't want to, but
I don't know actually. Maybe I do. Maybe I've got some in the attic. The thing is, those pages are massive, because they're 2000 AD size. So they're maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I just don't want to admit to it because I don't want to see them.
Well, that certainly got your agent excited. So, so CrossGen ran its course,
right?
And that's certainly that's a movie or a documentary yet to be made, or maybe we should just start working on it now while we're in quarantine. So what was your next move from there?
Well, when CrossGen was winding down, Mark Alessi, who was the boss there, he was allowing people to get outside work because we weren't getting paid, and it was a right arse. But then it was so I was picking up Marvel stuff because I think Marvel basically. I think Joe Quesada came down once he heard that CrossGen was falling apart. And he took everyone out for dinner, So I think Marvel really gave everybody a chance, and so I picked up a District X fill-in, which was fantastic because I love David Hines writing, and we've spoken again since then about doing something together, but just scheduling things like that is crazy. But and a Spider-Man short story with Bill Roseman, who I worked with at CrossGen as well. And so that was really. And the thing is, I was at CrossGen until they locked the door.
Wow.
Because I was on a work visa, I couldn't actually leave.
Oh yeah.
Until I was kicked out, really. And so I was, apart from Alessi, I was the last person to leave the office. Wow. And there was basically me, Sergio Cariello, and Drew Hennessy there. And they were only there because they liked the studio space, so they weren't doing any CrossGen stuff. And so everything fell apart. I walked out and I got in my car, and then my phone rang, and it was CB at Marvel, and he said, "We'll take care of your visa. Don't worry about it. Just sign a 3-year exclusive with us, and it's all done."
And that was when he was a new talent coordinator.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he was based. Yeah, that was his job, to go around and pick up talent.
Right. And so that led to Spellbinders at Marvel. With Mike Derry again. And just as I was wrapping up Spellbinders, that's when I started to help out with the inking on Captain America with Steve.
And I think we could probably say that was another significant level up for your career.
Totally. And plus the fact it was, I kind of established myself again as an inker, solely as an inker. And so I was very much known for that within the American market. And then when I was helping Steve out with the inks from issue 8 of Captain America, they asked me to come in and ink everything.
Yeah.
And I said, no, don't want to do it. And they were taken aback and was like, okay. I said, look, the reason is I'm trying to reestablish myself as a penciler inker. You know, it's you know, I just want to be an illustrator. I don't want to just be a penciler or an inker. I want to be an illustrator. And so the next day, Steve Epton, Ed Brubaker got in touch with me, and he said, well, what about you pencil and ink alternate arcs and help out Steve when he needs the help inking? And I'm like, that's perfect, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's when I got to working with Ed on the Captain America stuff, which was fantastic. I mean, it's such a great run to be a part of.
Again, not to admonish anybody who's worked on the book since then, but honestly, that's the last run people still talk about.
Right.
That, I mean, for lack of a better term, I mean, and it's weird because I think they did kill off Cap again for a little while before they turned him into this. It seems like Batman and Captain America are always on a cycle of
right.
All right, they get knocked off the character. Someone else takes up the mantle. They have a run. Cap comes back, he does it, and then he only has the job just enough till somebody says, "Let's get rid of Steve Rogers and put somebody else." But arguably, yeah, your guys' run was the most seminal.
Yeah, and I didn't even know what was going on with that Death of Captain America stuff, because it was so. That actual moment was so delayed because Civil War was delayed.
Yeah,
and it was tied into all that stuff. So because I was working, like Steve was doing 25, and I was working on 26, and 25 was the actual Death of Cap. Mm-hmm. So when I got the script for 26 through, Steve Rogers was emaciated on this slab, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I didn't know anything about it. And then I had to keep quiet about it for 5 months while the war caught up, you know. So that was fun.
Well, I honestly, looking back at it now that everybody has come out and said how crazy and tumultuous that process was, it was like I'm amazed it all concluded and wrapped up as well as it did. With just the last, I mean, Miller was just. I won't say make it up as it go along, but I mean, you start out so broad and then no, we're gonna have this. Let's do this. No, let's do this. It just, and it's all been coming out the past like 3 or 4 years. How really throwing stuff against the wall, and again, I can't say that Civil War is my favorite story of all time, but I'll give it credit for accomplishing what making it look as good as it did, given what we know now what was going on back, like how that sausage was made.
Right.
So, and of course, I want to say I saw this, but did you ever get any of the flack? Well, of course they killed off Captain America. They have a British guy drawing it.
Only from people on panels, you know.
All right.
Only from other creators. And I always come back with like, you know, what about Keanu Reeves as Constantine? You know, it's like.
Or how many Americans have played Sherlock Holmes or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Herb Trimpe on Captain Britain, you know.
Yes, exactly. Although Herb Trimpe could have drawn anything, and I would have liked it.
Yeah, that's true.
I just he was one of those styles that I never got tired of. I always liked looking at. You know, it's like sometimes you have to adjust it to a little bit to it, but I was, yeah. Absolutely. What were some of your early influences that you were like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's awesome?
Well, I think Leonardi was one of those guys where it was such a style, you know, that I wouldn't necessarily pursue myself, but it was, and I was always fascinated by it. And then when I was inking his stuff, I was just studying those pencils and seeing how he would use the side of the pencil to just wedge in shapes and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, just learning so much from that approach. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I mean, I mentioned a few already: Garcia Lopez and Butch Rice, and all these
people. Again, Lopez should be studied by everyone.
Totally.
Should absolutely be studied, and the fact that he is the most gentle and nicest man I've ever met, professionally wise. It's just, I his image, for some reason, his image that maybe he'd be like Aragones, that is some bombastic sort of, hey, it was just like, hello, hello, good to see you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. this small little elf man who it's weird too. It took me a long time to figure it out. It's just like, you know what it is? If you look at the original illustrations of Willy Wonka, that's him. But he's described in the book as being small and thin and a little pointy Van Dyke.
Yeah.
It's him.
So, yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, he's just brilliant.
So, you know what else is brilliant? Stephen King for writing The Stand, and you were a part of adapting what I always thought was unadaptable in comic book form, adapting The Stand. How did that come about?
That was I was ready to move on from camp, and it wasn't anything to do with the process of working there. It was more to do with the fact that Steve Epting had started the book.
Yeah.
And so it was always Epting's book. And it was getting to the point where, I mean, the good thing was we were so cohesive as a team, even when we were doing separate arcs.
Yeah.
And most of that was down to Frankie, who was coloring it, and he just pulled it together. But I was doing the alternate arcs, and all of a sudden it was, the reviews were coming through, and it was like, oh, Epting's doing great work on these issues, and I was kind of losing my name, So it was just a time to step back and say, okay, I want to do something else. I want my own project, and then Marvel came up with, do you want to do The Stand? And I was like, yes, I want to do The Stand. So really that's how it came up, and I started doing character sketches and things like that, and Stephen King would send me emails saying,
really,
this is exactly how I saw this character.
That's great.
I mean, that's a huge thing, because you've got millions of readers, and each of those people know how they see the characters in their head. So if you've got the author of those characters saying this is how the character should be, you can just sod off to everybody else, Yeah.
But no, and I think, and again, as bombastic as it is with the end of the world and the disease and all the stuff with Flag, it's those quiet moments,
right?
Really, really, really quiet moments with just just like the oh god, I forgot his name, the guy who with the candy bars, who's kind of gets turned and kind of you gave him just some really good expressions.
Yeah.
Just like you can just this way, he was clawing up to people, playing politics, and his mother Abigail.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're talking about with Harold. Harold, right?
Yes.
You're talking about Harold.
Yes. Who was I think was it in the TV adaptation? He was.
I never saw it. I never saw the TV.
It's good for what it is. It was TV.
All right.
And I don't mean that in an admonishing sort of way. It was just it was everything I think they could have at that time. And I know they've been talking about, we're going to do a 3-picture back to back. And I'm good with your guys' version. I really am. And I'm not saying it against your ass. I think if you're going to convert it to another medium, I think this is fine. And at the very least, if they do it, then they should just treat your adaptation as the first round of storyboards.
Well, I mean, at one point, I know that Ben Affleck's company was going to do it. He was going to direct it. And Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, who wrote the adaptation, he works on a lot of film stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And he was at that production company for something else entirely. And he went into the office, and there was a pristine copy of the novel sitting there on the desk. And then the hardback versions of our adaptation with Post-it notes all over them. So it was just like, okay, fair enough.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, your agent likes to know who would be the 2 or 3 your favorite currently working artists.
Ooh. That's a difficult one.
Damn.
It's you always get these questions where it's like, what are you reading lately? And it's gone.
Yeah.
I have to think about that one.
Well, if something pops in your head, you can always go back to it.
Yeah. Who's the guy who does the man? There's a guy who works with Rick Remender. He did Avengers for a while. Punisher. Let me just see. Yeah, hold on. I know I'm out of shot. Jerome Apina. He's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, agreed.
He is amazing.
Curious enough, almost like a weird counterpoint to your work on Lois Lane. Who's been drawing the Jimmy Olsen book? I'm drawing a blank.
Steve Lieber.
Oh yeah, I've been loving.
Oh, that's great.
That. It's absurd, but not in a way that I find grating. Because sometimes when people attempt to do stuff like that, it doesn't. There's an audience for it, but it's not a flavor I enjoy. But right. I enjoyed the hell out of that book way more than I ever expected to.
Right. Right. I'm still trying to think of the previous one. Olivia Coipel always does fantastic work. I think Phil Winslade is doing some amazing work at the moment he's doing a strip in the Judge Dredd magazine. And that stuff is just, it's fantastic what he's doing on there. And Steve Pugh's thing that he did on the Harley Quinn graphic novel thing, that was mind-blowing. That was brilliant.
I've been a fan of his since the Grimjack days.
Right. I inked him once on the Superman versus Terminator miniseries, which was that was fantastic.
That was a good one. I have a real soft spot for all those kind of Dark Horse Fox DC crossovers. Yeah. I honestly, they could have been disasters, but there's not a stinker among them, and some of them are like supreme home runs. I always celebrate the first Predator Batman one that Gibbons wrote. I was like, and Hubert's. That's one of my favorite Batman stories, mostly because Batman actually acts like a detective and is smart in it. So that always helps.
I mean, the Green Lantern Aliens ones was perfect. I mean, for both of those characters, it worked so well.
Absolutely. Oh, Ruben says it was awful. I'm not sure what he was talking about. Ruben, if you'd like to clarify what was awful, I'll be more than happy to. If my pedestrian taste has offended you in some way, I apologize.
Probably the Superman Terminator.
So you bounced around for a while after the Stand. You kind of sort of
I mean,
you weren't anywhere really where for too long. Then a couple of years ago, you signed up for a medium length hitch over at DC.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago now. I mean, I was on things for a while. I mean, the problem is most series, they don't last that long. So I kind of went from Astonishing X-Men to Deathlock to Carnage to Iron Fist. So it was all prolonged runs, which
Yeah, I take that back. I drew a blank on the Iron Fist, and I should not have, because that's despite the heat the character has gotten over the past couple of years, that's still one of my favorite Marvel these characters.
Right. But I figured it was time for a change. You know, I've been at Marvel for 14 years, so it was really time to try some new pastures, and you know, and I've still got a great relationship with the Marvel guys.
Oh yeah,
anything acrimonious or anything. So it was just a chance to play in a different sandbox, as they call it.
Yeah. And
one of the reasons I went there was basically because I wanted to do Lois Lane, you know, with Greg Rucka. I mean, that was one of the things I really wanted to do there. And while we were waiting for that to start up, they offered me the Green Lanterns with Dan Jurgens, and so that was wonderful.
Yeah,
because just working with Dan, who's so visual, that was a joy to work with. I'd definitely work with him again on something at some point.
He's a fascinating cat to me, because in some ways I still think of him as the new guy. I don't know why, because here he is, and he's just he seems like somebody who has just stepped in when needed and just risen to the occasion. And then Keith Gibbons a little bit like that too, in the sense of, we don't know what to do with this. Can you just keep the pilot light going on? And he's always jumped on in, and just always done. As I said, in baseball terms, he always gets on base.
Right.
And I don't know what the cricket version of that is for you. Sorry. He makes his century on the pitch.
Close. I don't know. Yeah, he hits his googlies over the boundary.
All I know about cricket is what I learned from Peter Davidson's Doctor Who, which was very, very, very little, which is weird considering how often he wore that outfit.
Yeah, he was. It was actually one of the conventions that Mike was running down in Miami, and I met Peter in the bar area. Him and Dave Prowse were sitting there, and I went over and sat down and had a few drinks with him for a couple of hours. It was great, you know. It's like I'm sitting there with Darth Vader and Doctor Who. What could be better?
You can't go wrong with that at all. My goodness. So I was curious. So Lois Lane was actually in the works, but it took that long for it to roll over?
It was actually going to be one of the launches of the Black Label line.
No shit.
Originally, it was going to be called The Planet, and it was basically going to be a Gotham Central version of the Daily Planet. A lot more kind of down to earth, a lot more gritty. I was playing with doing gray tones on the whole thing. So it was actually going to be one of the launch things, and then it fell apart for various political maneuverings. And then we just didn't know if we were going to do it. So that's why I took on the Green Lantern stuff. And when that was coming to an end, they were ready to pick it up again.
Sure.
But they wanted to pull it into the DCU. So, you know, it just meant more superheroes and less swearing, really.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. Oh, and Rubens made it clear he was, what was awful was he was talking about, that was his opinion on the Stan TV adaptation.
Oh.
See, Ruben, I'm the host. I'm not allowed to really openly crap on anything because I never know who I'm going to be sitting with in the future. I never know who we're going to have a ghost of the show. So I can neither confirm nor deny your opinion, but I stand by what I said. It was very television for its time. And take that however you will. So, again, Rucka, of course, I mean,
he's brilliant.
Yeah, he really is.
He's always been one of my favorite writers. So to actually work with him, you know, we've tried to work on and off together on various things throughout the line, and we just kept missing each other. Or, like he was at Marvel or I was at DC, and so it was just all over the place. And but yeah, finally we managed to get it together, and it was Ruck is just brilliant. We've talked about future possibilities together, but it really is a case of trying to figure out some kind of schedule.
Yeah,
we're both busy people.
Absolutely. What's yeah, there she is.
Oh, there's Lois. Yeah. The Black Label thing was I wanted to do everything in that kind of style.
Yeah.
The gray tone, the tonal stuff, which on a monthly book you don't really have the time to do that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but I think it would have fit in quite nicely with the Black Label stuff.
I don't know if they've made an official announcement about the future of Black Label. I will say that I have enjoyed most of it.
All right.
I really. I thought Romita and Miller on Superman Year One really knocked it out of the park.
Right.
It was the best thing Miller. I joked, it was like the Frank Miller that did Superman Year One was the Frank Miller I liked from the late '80s, early '90s.
Right. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
And there's episodes.
You'll be interviewing Frank Miller next week.
I hosted him on stage, and I apparently got good marks from him and his people. So so that was one of those. You survived, Frank. Yeah, literally. That's if you came up to me. It's just like he says he wants you back again. He's never said that about anyone else. I'm like,
right.
All right, I'll take that as a win. So
excellent.
What's the dream project for you? What's up if DC or Marvel gave you a blank?
Well, I think everybody would like a crack at Batman. I think. I'm actually, I'm doing one of my dream projects at the moment. I have a whole bunch of dream projects. It's just, and creators I would look to collaborate with upon that dream project. So it's just a case of just getting around to doing them.
Yeah.
And plus the fact, most of my dream projects, they're not particularly in the A list of characters.
Right.
I want to do a dead man, it's just like,
I would love to see you do Dead Man.
Right.
I've actually Dead Man's been in the back of my head. I always want to do a Dead Man story where we never see Dead Man. Right. You just see the people he possesses, and he does like a little wink when trying to figure out what body he's in, and
my art dealer would hate that.
I agree. It would be very
He'll be typing now. What are you talking about?
No, I'd love to see you do that. For some reason, I always thought I'd love to see you do a question story.
Right. Well, I got to play around with Renee question in Lois.
Yeah.
A question story. I'm kind of scratching a little itch with. I've got those 2 8-page Swamp Thing things coming up for the Halloween special. They're bookended. Ram V has written them, and they're brilliant. And so those 2 8-page bookend things are really sweet to work on.
Yeah.
And Swamp Thing is one of those things which I would go back to again and again and again, because it's just one of those characters where you can, as somebody who's an organic inker, it's lovely to work on. So I've got that coming up, and I've got an 8-page story in the Doomed and the Damned Justice League Dark thing that's coming up. That's with John Arcudi. And that's with Mambat and Madame Xanadu.
Holy crap!
I enjoy that a lot as well.
Okay, all right. I've never seen those characters cross paths. I am color me intrigued.
Right. yeah, it's fantastic. You know, all those kind of characters. But yeah, you know, everybody wants to do a Batman. You know, it's
yeah,
one of those characters where it's such a character that you can, every artist can bring something to it. You know,
yeah,
in every version of it can be your own version.
very much.
There's not really that many of those characters around. I mean, Wolverine is another similar kind of character. But yeah, for sure a Batman thing. And but yeah, other than that, it's Deadman. It's you know, all these kind of characters.
Oh, hey, to me that's the thing I love. That's the thing I love about comics in general. It's like I love those C-lister, D-lister, whatever you want to call them too. I geeked out this weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch the Fandom live, so I like crammed it all in like an hour. But when I saw the Suicide Squad trailer and I saw John Cena's Peacemaker, and they made a legitimate effort to have his toilet seat lid helmet, I lost my mind. I was just like, I really didn't think they'd do that. But okay,
straight from the comic.
I know. I mean, now you know, 3/4 of them are probably going to get killed off, you know, but, but that's whatever. The fact that he's there and he's doing it, the fact that somebody said, James Gunn, God bless him, said, no, I want it to look like held up the comic and do it like that. So.
Right. I kind of knew most of them who were coming up, and then I saw the Peter Capaldi thing, and I was like, oh, that's great.
I knew he was in it. The rumor was he was the thinker and everything. Yeah. What threw me off was Idris as Bloodsport.
Right.
Everybody was saying it was going to be like a version of the Adrian Chase Vigilante, and when that came, I was like, well, that's perfect. That makes perfect sense. So so I think that's gonna be some good stuff. What man on this? Jude, I'll invite our producer Jude to roll some of your commission work. You again, your commission work is really fantastic.
Well, thank you.
For two reasons: one, it really shows off your skill, and two, it shows off you don't phone it in for commissions.
No. I hate seeing commissions that I've done at the conventions, because it's kind of like, okay, I don't really remember doing that. You know, I actually prefer doing commissions beforehand.
Sure.
Because the thing is, you're doing a commission at home, and a commission can take 20 minutes to an hour to do, depending on how much detail and full figure and all that kind of stuff. But you're doing a commission at a convention, and a headshot can take you a whole day. Because people want to have signed, they want to have a chat. It's fine. That's what they're there for.
Yeah. And that kind of is. I remember on my days at the table, it's like I'd want to kind of and I've learned this, and again, we first met at Sketch Duels and stuff. And one of the things when I ran Sketch Duels is that, hey, I jokingly said that, well, I can be bribed with some Guinness, and he shows up with 2 cans worth. So it's like, okay. But one thing I do is I start off something slow, and then when I tell people to do it,
3 cans.
It was 3 cans. Yeah, that's right.
Carrie ran off with the other one.
That's right. But one thing I have to discern real quick is like, okay, is there some artists that can talk and draw at the same time, and there's some that can't, and that's nothing against them. That's just they're very focused and whatever, or they have to put the pencil down and answer the questions. So that first 10 minutes, I'm feeling somebody out. You, however, of course, can. But yeah, coming up to the table though, it's like you want to talk to an artist, but they're in the commission zone.
Yep. Totally.
And it's a little like, just okay. They're making up to who? Okay, yeah, I love you too. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, I tend not to do that. I will put the commission aside and talk to someone if they're there to talk to me, which is why sometimes these things can take so long.
Sure.
And also sometimes why I don't even remember doing them. It's just because it's so distracted on different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of the times I will get commissions beforehand, which is they come out so much better. I've got to start concentrating more on that when conventions start again.
And absolutely, they will. And where can people contact you for commission stuff and just general news about upcoming projects?
Usually via Facebook or via my website, which is down there on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a contact link on there. It's a lot of the times I'm so busy doing monthly work that it takes me a while to get to commissions, but they always come through eventually.
And Ruben correct is he said he would love to see you do Dead Man. He just wouldn't want to see my version of Dead Man, where you don't see Dead Man, you just see people like turn around the corner because Boston's possessed them. Is that what
I know exactly the writer I would like to work with on Dead Man as well. So I'm just like, I have my vision of it.
Fair enough. So, Mike, thank you for hanging out with us. This has been an absolute blast.
It's been a pleasure.
Is there anything else coming up that you may be allowed to tell us about?
No, just those shorts in the Swamp Thing Halloween thing and the Justice League Dark. I think that's a Halloween thing as well. It's a Brave and the Bold, but it's the Doomed and the Damned instead.
Right.
Which I think is fantastic. They should just have a monthly comic called The Doomed and the Damned. I mean, I would love. Are you talking about dream projects? I would love to do a Brave and the Bold where it's Batman and another superhero every single month. Like it used to be.
I don't know why it hasn't been brought back.
Right.
I really don't. It was a great that 70s 80s run was like really solid. And again, do an anthology style. You could have, it's like different guys coming on into it with just, all right, well, you got to throw Batman against a wacky character.
Right.
I thought, Mark Waid and Perez's run a couple of years ago. That was one of my favorite things of that decade, I think. So absolutely, but Brave and the Bold, bring it back.
Brave and the Bold,
please. And one last plug from Ruben, who says, not only does Mike do great commission work, but it's so cheap considering what the buyer gets back in return.
So he doesn't see any cut of that. So he's allowed to say that.
So Ruben is your dealer for your original comic book art sale?
Comicbookartgallery.com. Yes.
Comicbookartgallery.com. Yep. Go check that out. Very good. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us here today at GalaxyCon. GalaxyCon Talks Comics. And just to let everybody know, coming up this week at GalaxyCon Live on this Thursday, the 27th, the cast of My Hero Academia. On Friday, the 28th, the cast of Altered Carbon. On Saturday, the 29th, William Shatner and Henry Winkler for a better late than never experience. Along with the cast of Ruby, we have cast of Star Wars, Arrow, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and that'll be it for this weekend. A lot more. Check us out at GalaxyCon.com for all this other stuff, too. Mike, any final words for our audience before we go?
Thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Mike, stick around right where you are. We're going to go backstage while the credits roll. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and take care, everyone, and please keep washing those hands.